Did you? But I did. I listened. I listened at the door. Do you see the things you make me do?
Are the boys still waiting outside?
Oh, the boys. I forgot them in Vienna.
Hollywood has always been a place where boundaries were tested and limits were pushed. During the golden era of cinema, many celebrities lived lives that would surprise audiences today. Behind their glamorous public images, numerous stars engaged in passionate relationships and behaviors that shocked even their most daring contemporaries. This exploration reveals how some of Hollywood's most famous faces navigated love, desire, and scandal during an era when such matters were typically kept behind closed doors. Joan Crawford stands as one of the most complex figures from this period. Her rise to stardom was marked not only by her considerable talent, but also by her strategic approach to relationships. Crawford married 4 times, but her romantic life extended far beyond these official unions. She developed a reputation for being exceptionally ambitious, and many believed she used her personal relationships as stepping stones to advance her career in the competitive film industry. Her connections allegedly included some of the most powerful men in Hollywood, including studio executives who could make or break careers with a single decision. What made Crawford particularly fascinating was the whispered speculation about her bisexuality during an era when such topics were rarely discussed openly. Behind closed doors, people spoke about her possible romantic connections with other women in the industry, including some of the era's most celebrated actresses. Crawford was described as someone with an insatiable appetite for both power and pleasure, using intimacy as a means to achieve her goals. Her public image portrayed her as a fiercely independent and dominating personality, which only added layers to her mystique. The combination of her professional achievements, turbulent romantic history, and passionate relationships created a persona that fascinated and scandalized in equal measure. Ava Gardner brought a different kind of energy to Hollywood. Her legendary beauty was matched only by her enthusiasm for living life to its fullest. Gardner approached love and relationships with intense passion, and her romantic entanglements often involved jealousy, drama, and deep exploration of physical connection. Her relationship with Frank Sinatra became one of Hollywood's most talked-about romances, characterized by fierce arguments, physical confrontations, and an undeniable chemistry that seemed to consume both of them. Gardner was remarkably outspoken about her preferences for her time, reportedly making bold statements about her taste in companions. During her time in Spain, she became involved with bullfighters, drawn to the excitement and danger these relationships offered. She also had connections with notable figures like Howard Hughes and Ernest Hemingway, both of whom were captivated by her wild spirit and uninhibited approach to life. Gardner's refusal to conform to society's expectations of how women should behave, combined with her constant search for adventure and new experiences, made her a symbol of liberation during a conservative era. She rejected the idea of settling down in any conventional sense, preferring to follow her desires wherever they led. Lana Turner's life story reads like a dramatic screenplay filled with scandal and intensity. While she had many romantic relationships throughout her life, it was her involvement with mobster Johnny Stompanato that became the most infamous chapter of her personal history. Stompanato, who had connections to organized crime, brought both danger and drama into Turner's world. Their relationship was marked by physical abuse and intense emotional volatility, creating a toxic yet magnetically charged dynamic. The situation reached a tragic climax when Turner's daughter, Cheryl Crane, killed Stompanato in an act of protection during one of his violent episodes. This shocking incident became front-page news across the country and added even more controversy to Turner's already sensational reputation. Throughout her life, Turner married 7 times, with each relationship contributing to the public's perception of her as someone driven primarily by passion. She was often linked with younger men, and her romantic life provided endless material for gossip columns. The combination of glamour, beauty, and a personal life filled with violence and passion created a complicated public image that fascinated audiences. Tula Bankhead stood out as one of the few stars from the Golden Age who openly embraced her sexuality without apology. In an era when most celebrities carefully guarded their private lives to maintain wholesome public images, Bankhead did the opposite. She was open about her attraction to both men and women, hosting legendary parties where boundaries were routinely crossed and conventional morality was left at the door. These gatherings became notorious for featuring not just alcohol, but also other substances and sexual freedom. Bankhead had numerous lovers of various genders and refused to hide or apologize for her desires. Hollywood gossip columns frequently reported on her romantic involvements, including rumored connections with some of the era's most famous actresses. Her daring approach to sexuality, combined with her struggles with substance abuse, made her a controversial figure. In an age marked by repression and strict social codes, Bankhead's refusal to conform made her both dangerous and fascinating. She represented a kind of freedom that most people could only imagine, living exactly as she pleased, regardless of public opinion. Marilyn Monroe's story is perhaps the most complex and tragic of all. While Hollywood carefully crafted her image as the ultimate symbol of desire, this persona reflected and complicated her real-life struggles with intimacy and the need for validation. Marilyn's alleged affair with President John F. Kennedy became one of the most famous chapters of her life, representing her status as both a fantasy figure and someone whose sexuality made her a liability in political circles. Her breathy voice and provocative public appearances, including her memorable birthday performance for the president, solidified her reputation as Hollywood's most desired woman. However, beneath the carefully constructed image was someone who desperately sought emotional connection, often attempting to find it through physical relationships. Her marriages to Joe DiMaggio and Arthur Miller, along with numerous rumored affairs with prominent men, revealed a pattern of turbulent and often self-destructive behavior. Marilyn felt trapped by the very image that made her famous, unable to escape the role she was expected to play. Her need for male attention and approval, combined with her vulnerability and beauty, contributed to the tragic narrative that surrounded her life. She was viewed as someone whose desires were simultaneously her greatest strength and the force that ultimately destroyed her. Errol Flynn represented the male equivalent of scandal and excess during Hollywood's golden age. His handsome features and adventurous roles made him immensely popular, but his behavior away from cameras earned him an even more notorious reputation. Flynn's preference for younger women led to serious legal troubles, including a trial in which he faced accusations of assault from 2 teenage girls. Although he was found not guilty, the trial permanently cemented his image as a reckless figure who lived without regard for consequences or boundaries. Flynn's lifestyle was characterized by constant indulgence in every pleasure available. He reportedly participated in group encounters and public displays of sexuality, showing little concern for discretion. His mansion became famous for hosting wild gatherings where alcohol, drugs, and uninhibited behavior were standard features. Flynn openly discussed his exploits, seemingly proud of his reputation. The phrase, "in like Flynn," entered popular culture as a reference to easy romantic conquest, ensuring his legacy as one of Hollywood's most notorious figures would endure long after his death. Elizabeth Taylor, her romantic life became as legendary as her acting talent. She married 8 times to 7 different men, but her relationship with Richard Burton captured the world's attention like no other. Taylor and Burton's connection was characterized by overwhelming passion, jealousy, and an almost obsessive quality that played out publicly. They met while filming a major production, and despite both being married to others at the time, they began one of cinema's most famous affairs. Their tumultuous romance involved constant breakups and reunions, fueled by mutual struggles with alcohol and an intense physical connection. Taylor's numerous other marriages and relationships, including a controversial involvement with a hotelier and a highly publicized romance with a singer who left his wife for her, reinforced the perception of her as someone who lived for passion above all else. She was often labeled as someone with an excessive appetite for romance and companionship, and her larger-than-life personality only amplified this reputation. Taylor seemed to collect husbands and lovers the way others collected awards, always searching for the next great love. Vivien Leigh's romantic history cannot be separated from her mental health struggles, creating a tragic dimension to her story. Her marriage to Laurence Olivier began as a passionate affair while both were committed to other people. The relationship was marked by intense emotions and strong physical chemistry. However, Leigh suffered from bipolar disorder, which significantly affected her behavior and relationships. During manic episodes, she engaged in impulsive romantic encounters outside her marriage, purportedly involving both men and women. Leigh's mental health challenges, combined with her beauty and allure, contributed to a perception of her as someone whose sexuality was both captivating and uncontrollable. Despite her fragile psychological state, she remained one of Hollywood's most desired women. Her tragic personal life, marked by the intersection of mental illness and passionate relationships, only enhanced her mythical status. She represented the dangerous intersection of beauty, talent, and psychological torment. Hedy Lamarr's story demonstrates how sexuality could overshadow even remarkable intelligence. Her career began with controversy when she appeared in explicit scenes in a 1933 film, quickly establishing her as one of Hollywood's most daring actresses. Away from the screen, Lamarr married 6 times, with her relationships frequently marked by infidelity and dramatic conflict. She was rumored to have had affairs with powerful Hollywood figures and was known to attend exclusive parties where experimentation was encouraged. What makes Lamarr's story particularly interesting is that she possessed genuine intellectual brilliance. She co-invented technology that would later contribute to modern wireless communication. However, public perception focused almost exclusively on her physical appeal and romantic adventures. Her multiple marriages and liberated approach to relationships led many to view her as someone who rejected traditional expectations at a time when women were expected to conform to more conservative standards of behavior. Ingrid Bergman's affair with Italian director Roberto Rossellini in the late 1940s created an international scandal that nearly ended her career. Bergman was married when she began her relationship with Rossellini, and when she became pregnant with his child while still married to another man, American society reacted with outrage. The scandal was so severe that the United States Senate actually denounced her in harsh moral terms, reflecting the conservative values of the era. Despite her wholesome on-screen image, Bergman's decision to follow her desires regardless of consequences made her a target of public condemnation. While she wasn't as promiscuous as others from this era, her affair was seen as a brazen act of defiance against social norms. She was willing to risk everything, her career, her reputation, her standing in society, for the sake of following her heart and desires. This willingness to prioritize personal passion over professional consequences marked her as someone who let desire guide her decisions. Joan Blondell brought a different approach to the conversation about liberated women in Hollywood. She was known for playing sultry, streetwise characters on screen, and her personal life reflected a similar independence. Married 3 times, Blondell's relationships frequently appeared in gossip columns. Her reputation as a liberated woman came from her refusal to accept Hollywood's narrow expectations for how women should behave. She had various affairs and enjoyed relationships with some of the industry's most influential men. What distinguished Blondell was her wit and charm, which made her particularly appealing. Her insistence on independence in a male-dominated industry made her stand out from many of her contemporaries. While she avoided the more extreme scandals that plagued some of her peers, Blondell's open embrace of her own desires and her refusal to apologize for living on her own terms gave her a reputation as someone who charted her own course through life and love. Veronica Lake's story serves as a cautionary tale about Hollywood's darker side. Her seductive roles on screen mirrored a troubled personal reality. Lake experienced multiple failed marriages and struggled significantly with alcoholism, which contributed to her reputation as difficult and self-destructive. Her physical appeal was central to her public image, and she was well known for affairs with powerful Hollywood figures. As Lake's career declined, her life spiraled increasingly out of control. Her romantic relationships were often viewed as part of a broader pattern of self-destruction that eventually led to her downfall. Lake's beauty and sexuality had been essential to her fame, but they also contributed to her destruction. She became a victim of Hollywood's obsession with youth, appearance, and physical desirability,
unable to maintain her career once she no longer fit the narrow standards the industry demanded. These stars, through their embrace of sexuality, scandalous affairs, and reputations as people with insatiable appetites for romance and pleasure, contributed significantly to Hollywood's legacy of passion and scandal. They became symbols of excess and desire, and in many cases, their stories ended tragically. Their personal lives played out publicly, feeding the entertainment press and reinforcing their reputations as figures who lived beyond conventional boundaries. Each represents a different aspect of how fame, desire, and scandal intersected during Hollywood's golden age, creating legends that continue to fascinate audiences decades later.